Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. We know that the most popular corridor utilizing XRP as a bridge currency would be from the United States to Mexico. And we know that most of those flows are coming from Bitstamp in the United States to Bitso in cryptocurrency exchange in Mexico. And both those exchanges, of course, are officially partnered with Ripple. They are officially pools of liquidity. So knowing that there's certainly some volume flowing there wouldn't surprise you, but what if I were to tell you that Bitstamp flowing funds from to Bitso was occurring outside of the United States at their location overseas? You gotta love the XRP community. People are they're tracking every little bit of information they can, and we found something interesting here, which led to this article from A&B Crypto titled, "Is Ripple Exploring On-Demand Liquidity Between Europe, Mexico, Australia?" Lots to talk about here. But before we go any further, if you would please delicately tap that like button. You know that I would appreciate it. It's good for the YouTube algorithm. And also go ahead and subscribe to the Moon Lambo channel, because the Moon Lambo channel is the best channel on all of the YouTubes, and you definitely don't want to miss out on that. Now, do you guys remember this article? This is written by Ashish Burla almost a month ago. This is June 8th, 2020. It was titled, "Staying the Course in Remittances and SME Payments." And I want to highlight just two sentences or so out of this because, and I think most of you probably are aware of this at this point, but if not, it's kind of important just kind of setting the table here. We knew that on-demand liquidity flows were going to be looking a bit different, which I have highlighted in terms of the effects and in terms of liquidity, which had gone down, which, again, temporary thing, and I don't want to get too much on that topic for the sake of this video, but I do want to make sure that people are aware of this. So I want to read this part. And again, this is written by Ashish Burla, Ripple employee. He's a senior vice president. He wrote, "We are continuing to focus on supporting low-value, high-frequency payments with on-demand liquidity, though transaction volume may look different in this new world." And there, earlier in the piece, he was citing some of the changes, obviously, that have resulted thanks to the pandemic and all that good stuff. Anyway, he writes, "In particular, we are reducing emphasis on large treasury payments, which are traditionally used to fund businesses and services in the absence of real-time transfers, to support individual low-value transactions, addressing the growing need in remittances and SME payments." That'd be small, medium enterprise payments. This may reduce overall on-demand liquidity transaction volumes. And of course, that's those couple sentences right there. That's what lit the entire community on fire. People were just flipping out. Oh my God, what is going? Ripple's failing, this or that. And really, it was just a pivot. They're just making it, the best way to learn what to do in the world of business. There's no substitute for real-world experience, and being nimble and being willing to change based on information and data that you receive based on your actual practices within the real world. Isn't that kind of important? So I never flipped out, and I made it clear that I thought it was always kind of silly to kind of feel that way, but, I get it. But let's jump into this piece now. "With every passing day, the prospect of cashless transactions is becoming more and more enticing, especially since the pandemic is making cash vulnerable. Many traditional banks have been taking steps towards managing day-to-day activities online with an eye on making the user experience more convenient and comfortable. One of the technologies attempting to streamline the payments network is Ripple's on-demand liquidity, or ODL for short. Ripple has joined hands with banks and exchanges all over the world to enable faster and cheaper cross-border payments. As per Utility Scan's monitor, there currently exist 6 active corridors. However, there may be 2 more corridors currently in operation." Now, and of course, this is always the case that just because something goes live, you shouldn't have an expectation necessarily, even if it's something new, a new corridor, whatever it may be, that Ripple's going to come out and have a press release and talk to you about it right away. They've illustrated that's not always what they do. Now, one of the biggest pieces of news that ever came out from Ripple within the last couple of years anyway was the announcement XRP, now known as on-demand liquidity. They did announce that. That was good. So hopefully they weren't hiding the entire launch of this thing. But in terms of corridors, and maybe there's just testing, maybe it's not live and they don't want to make an actual official announcement yet, but it doesn't mean that things aren't happening here. And so check this out. This is where it gets fascinating. According to on-demand liquidity data provider HMX, ODL traffic was registered between Bitstamp and Bitso. In fact, payments were emerging from Europe-based Bitstamp exchange and were received by the Mexico-based Bitso. According to the Observer, these were batch transactions and were increasing in size. And so again, just to be clear, and this is what I was getting at earlier, Bitstamp actually has multiple locations. I think the headquarters actually is in London. I'm pretty sure that's the headquarters. I don't think it's the American, the United States-based location there. So let me scroll a little bit further. These small transactions were observed previously, as well as some believe that this is evidence of tests being carried out between the two exchanges. Here, a corridor could be established between the two countries if the tests were noted to be successful and if there was an additional need to provide liquidity. And so there's probably something to this. You can only draw so much in terms of conclusions from this, but it was never going to be the case that just because Ripple pivoted in terms of the way that they're going to market and regarding the utilization of XRP as a bridge currency, just because there was a pivot, it was never going to be the case that there was going to be this endless regression, some sort of retracement in terms of actual worldwide implementation. It was always going to be the case that the change was made, it affected liquidity in the short term, and then they keep on trekking forward. So, of course, there are going to be more corridors that come online. Anyway, similarly, another pattern of batched payments was observed between Australia's BTC markets and Bitstamp. And BTC markets is also officially partnered with Ripple on-demand liquidity, and they are a pool of liquidity, and that's why I still insist that they should rename their company from BTC Markets to XRP Markets. That's just my little opinion there. But anyway, again, this could be a sign of another corridor between Australia and Europe in the works. However, like EUR-USD, while there was enough liquidity between the countries, that did not stop the EUR-USD corridor from noting spiking volume on its charts. Now, historically, Ripple has taken its time to announce the active status of any new corridor, which is kind of what I was getting at earlier. They're not just gonna I would love to know all of the inner workings of what Ripple's going through and learn more about their decision-making process, but that's never going to be reality here. So I just understand that they're building this stuff out, and I'm just going to be patient and report on the bits that you can. And it's always kind of fun to speculate which direction we think it might make sense for Ripple to go, which corridors are going to be coming online sooner rather than later, and it's even more exciting when you get little bits of evidence here. But anyway, Pete continues. For instance, the XRP community had to dig deep to identify activity in the GBP PHP corridor before eventually getting a confirmation from Azimo about using it. And so there was another interesting case, and that I reported on that when it happened. You didn't get word from Ripple about this, but you did get official confirmation from a Ripple customer that's actually using the damn thing. So we know that this is absolutely the case. And so, this just adds credence to this idea that it's reasonable to speculate further about what's going on, what other corridors are either being tested or perhaps online that we actually just don't know about. But anyway, right. Thus, even if the corridors were to pass the test, the community may have to wait for a long time before an official announcement came their way. Now, in the meantime, the existing corridors recorded a sudden surge in volume between July 1st and July 2nd. As per data provided by UtilityScan, the volume spiked from $2.5 million to $5 million on July 2nd. So I'd say that's a pretty notable jump in a rather short time period. And right, however, this volume quickly dipped on July 3rd as USD, United States dollars day volume, stood at 1.94 million at press time. And it's never going to be like a straight line up. It's the same in terms of just looking at the price appreciation, whether you're talking about stocks or the crypto asset class. It's never a straight line up anyway. So it's that type of stuff has never been startling to me specifically. And then so here's the actual tweet from HMX when he put this out. And somebody tagged Galgatron and wrote views. And I wish he had. Could I mean, I don't blame him, but he wrote, "No idea. I just repeat HMX's thoughts," which again, it's just conceptually. You can all you can do is see. You can take the little bits of information here, and you can see that there is a change in terms of what's actually being batched and where it's going here. So. Definitely fascinating, and again, it wasn't like it was fascinating just because it's Bitso to, Bitstamp to Bitso, rather because of the Bitstamp location that it was coming from. So we shall see. Let's just sit tight here. Regardless, the whole ecosystem is continuing to be built out, and I'm happy to be patient and just see how things unfold. But that's it for this one. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambeau.